of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Friday, 4th day of December, 2020. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you can't see the screen I have up, just go to our homepage at CFRN.net. On the right-hand side, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds, and that'll give you one-click access to the show each and every day. That also gives you access to the chat box so that you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. On the days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, not to worry, just point any internet-connected browser to CFRN.net/live. There you'll find a live, real-time simulcast of the show. But you can also go to youtube.com/CFRN, and we stream live on YouTube. And I just went to go live on Twitter, and it crashed the streaming software. So today we're streaming every place I just mentioned, but no Facebook and no Twitter today. I think I must need to reboot or some such thing. All right, let's open with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your blessings, for your mercy, for your grace. You are faithful indeed, and you shepherd us through challenge and joy, in times of pain, times of renewal. Knowing that we are yours, we invite you to be part of our conversation here today. We pray, God, that you would open our ears, that we may hear what we need to hear from you and from each other. We ask that you would open our minds to new learning and our hearts to deeper compassion. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Happy Friday. Okay, let me give you the numbers from around the world. These are the cash markets, the indices. Starting here in the U.S., the Dow is up 185 points, NASDAQ up 60, S&P 500 up 25, and the Russell 2000 up 31. The mover and shaker there would be the Russell, which is up about 1 3/4%. S&P 500 putting in new all-time historic intraday high today, and unless something changes, we'll have a new all-time historic closing high, which will be 3 this week, and that's very unusual activity for the S&P, but we'll talk about that more later in the show. In the commodity basket, crude oil up 39 cents, trading 46.03 last. Gold down $4.70, trading 1836.40 last. Silver up 7 cents, trading 24.21 last. In the Asian markets, at the close, Nikkei posted a loss of 58 points. Shanghai rose 2.5 points, and the Hang Seng up 107 points. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE up 59, 1%. DAX up 46. The CAC up 34. That gives us a mixed day in Asia, a green day in the UK, and so far, it's a Big Green Radio Friday here in the US of A. We'll go to Michael and get a recap of what happened this morning in the live trading room. After that, I'll be back to go over the Concierge Trade Alerts, the Logic 247 alerts, and today is Dr. Tom Day. He had trouble getting logged in yesterday. He typically comes on Thursday. So if we can get him logged in today, he's going to join us at the top of the hour, and we're going to talk probably some about the election and the evidence that was presented yesterday and the video that was released last night. And we may also talk about the war on cash. Cash is going away, it looks like. Michael, if you're ready, you can take it away. And I think that's Michael not ready, so no problem. We are in week 122 of Logic 247. Logic 247 is our 24/7 Emini alert service. When you become a passport holder or a member, not only do we teach you how to trade Emini Futures in the live training room, we provide around-the-clock support starting Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, and our Telegram alert channel is open around the clock until Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern when the markets close. Most traders are looking for, the Wall Street Open and to get their business done between 9:30 and 4, Monday through Friday. But we take advantage of the fact that the global futures markets via Globex are available to us Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, and so many of our traders, they get Monday's work done Sunday night. So far this week, 49 total alerts issued, 4 never triggered, still waiting on the results of 1. So we've had 44 actionable alerts, 2 stopped out based on not risking more than $300 per contract per trade, less when possible, using our 3-step methodology, which is very simple. It's based on market structure. So 5% is not a typical number over the last 122 weeks and over 5,000 individual alerts. We've averaged 20% being stopped out on any given week. And there have been no alerts today in the Logic channel, and later, after Michael does a recap of the live training room, we'll go over the charts and I'll show you exactly why there were no alerts today. So far, not to say that there won't be. So yeah, if you're ready, Michael, you can take it away.
Yeah, I'm ready. Okay. Minimize this. And I'll bring it over here. Hey, Ryan, I see Ryan E. I see you're out in the audience.
Hey, Ryan.
We need to pick a time for today. Okay, I have you on my list. Joe has been moved. And I have Kevin, Bart, Ryan, Warrior.
Okay, you're locked and loaded, so I'm going to hit mute on my end.
Okay, all right. Let me just jump through this. Hold on. That's what it was like trading today. Like jumping through hoops. It hasn't been easy. The last 5 days have been difficult. Yes, you are. I think I have 1:30 open. 1:30 Eastern. Yeah. So tell me if that works for you. Okay, so here we go. Now, first of all, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the 4th day of December 2020. Today we lost 16 ticks on the euro. I stopped out twice on the euro. We made 2 ticks on crude, 21 ticks on gold, and 8 ticks on the ES. No. No, there's only you. that put us at plus $230 a contract on the morning session. Today it took 7 minutes and 1 trade to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we were up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 8 trades this morning. So on the month now, we're 4 days into it, and we're up $981 per contract. That's over 4 trading days, averaging $245 per contract per trading day. Today is our 201st consecutive day of getting the goal. And on the year now, we're at $96,284. That's over 226 trading days, averaging $426 per contract per trading day. Okay. If you have not taken the free trial with us and you want to take the free trial with us, go to the homepage here at CFRN.net. And there are several places where it says free 5-day trial, no credit card required. Click on any one of those and it's going to bring you here to EminiTrainingschool.com. On this page, all we ask for is your name, your email, your phone number. And you can tell us the biggest trading challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Once you do that, hit the send button and you'll be sent a confirmation link. Okay, you must click on that confirmation link because we don't know that you took the free trial until you I don't know why I have you down on my list. A couple days ago, I think you did. But once you click on that link, you'll be sent all the information you need to get into the free trial. Okay. And what you get when you're in the free trial is access to the indicators. Whether it's multicharts.net, Ninja Trader, 7 or 8, or DT Pro, Apex Trader, OEC Trader, Stage 5, Global Zen. Where else do we have it? Canon Capital. We have it in a whole bunch of different places. Any place that clears through Gain Capital, we should be able to put our indicators on for you. So if you're at an IB, an introducing broker, that is other than any of those that I just mentioned. I didn't even mention DT Pro, but of course DT Pro is what I use. But if you're at any of those places that clear through Gain Capital, we should be able to get our indicators on that for you. Okay, and it'll look just like this. It'll just have a different name, like up here at the top. You see how it says DT right there? And I was just going to show you, like this is OEC Trader. You see how it doesn't say DT right there? But it's the same thing. Anyway, let's get into the trades. I have your name on my list, right? And that's a hard list to get on lately. But we never set up a time. So I'll fit Kevin in that space then. Okay. Because Kevin's been wanting to meet for a week. Well, if you wanted to meet with me, then it'd be at 1:30 Eastern. And yeah, I'll send you a link. Okay, so this is gold from this morning. Okay, now on gold today, we had a pretty good day. We had a few trades, some that we missed, like right here. We missed that. That would have been the goal for the day right there. Some good YBR trades, like that one. And that one, the cycle was starting to go down on that. I probably wouldn't have done that. This one here was our first actual gold trade that we did. It was a break-even trade. Then we got over here, and I missed this trade. It went into profit. It was a momentum short trade. It went into profit, and I missed that trade. But you had to be really fast with that one if you get into it. If you did get into it and you stopped out, then you could have made it back right here on this one just a few minutes later. There was a nice short trade right there. There were actually two of them. There was one right here that would have given you about 6 or 8 ticks, then another one right here that would have given you about 10 or 15. Then it kept going, and over here, we picked up just 2 ticks on this. I mean, this went like 10 ticks into profit. I went to move my stop to plus 10, but it came back so fast right here between 10:30 and 10:31. It snapped back up really fast. So I got my stop to plus 2, and I took plus 2 on that. There was a nice short right here on the down close below the trend line. Okay, I missed it, but then we grabbed this one right here for 11 ticks to put us at plus 13. Then we grabbed this one right here for 8 ticks to put us at plus 21. That was really it. You know, there was one short right here that would have been a break even, but during the break, there wasn't really anything worth trading in here. You know, you could have taken a long right here, would have been a BBC and YBR trade, but we really didn't have a strong trend, so I wouldn't have done that. You see how this level to this level right here, I wouldn't have done it. Now I knew I'd draw. Nope. Okay, so that was gold this morning. Now the euro has a YBR trade happening right now, but this morning the euro kicked my butt. I stopped out on this one, minus 8 ticks. Then I stopped out on that one, minus 8 ticks. Now, you shouldn't have 2 stop outs in the same direction in a row, you know, using our methodology. But if you go in opposite directions, then it's possible that you're going to get stopped out in opposite directions twice in a row. But usually, if you stop out on one trade, okay, all right, Ryan, I'll send you the link. If you stop out on one trade, then you're not going to have a trade in the same direction that actually meets the rules for you to have the opportunity to stop out twice in a row. But this one, they were opposite directions. That was long, and that was short, and they're both valid trades. So some days you eat the bear. Right here was another long trade right here I didn't take. Then we got really choppy. I mean, today, you know, Dwayne's going to go over this on a larger time frame, but the day has been just a nasty, choppy day. Okay, on the crude, right here, we had one trade. We picked up 2 ticks on this one. There was a long right here that would have been a break even had I taken it, but it didn't. And then it was just nasty and choppy all through here. It turned around and went down during the break, but there was really nothing you could do during the break. Okay, over here on the ES, we had just one trade right here. We took 8 ticks profit on that. There was a YBR long right here. That would have worked out just fine right at the very beginning of the day. There was another long right here, but I was marking up this trade when that one happened, so I ended up missing that one. Then, I mean, you look at this right here, this period right here, it's like a half an hour, and it was in like a point range. It was getting really nasty at the end of the morning session. And I'm not sure exactly why, but it is what it is. Okay, Ryan, I'll send you, once I finish this, I'll create the links to all the meetings that I have today, and I'll send them out to everybody. Okay. So if you've not taken a free trial with us and you want to take a free trial with us, go to the homepage at CFRN.net, and right here it says free 5-day trial, no credit card required. Click on that and you'll be brought here to eminitrainingschool.com. On this page, all we ask for is right here. Your name, email, phone number. Tell us the biggest training challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. And we really do one-on-one training. You know, I do one-on-one training several times a day. Hit the send button and you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. Okay, if you don't click that link, we don't know that you took the free trial. Now, the spreadsheet, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you have to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the 4th day of December, 2020. Today we lost 16 ticks in the euro. We made 2 ticks in crude, 21 ticks in gold, and 8 ticks on the ES. So with that, we are at plus $230 on the morning session. That is one contract, 2 hours a day. Today, it took me 7 minutes and 1 trade to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 8 trades. On the month, now we're up $981. That's over 4 trading days, averaging $245 per contract per trading day. And today, and this is a big deal, really. I've never done this before. We're our 201st consecutive day of getting the goal. Now, I have been saying, why, thank you. I have been saying to you guys, you know, for the last 9 months, that these are unprecedented times. They're starting to get a little more complicated right now as we get into the end of the year, the end of the quarter, the end of the year, and the election. They're starting to get a little bit more complicated. The trade setups are still the same. I'm still doing everything exactly the way that I always did it. It's just we're not having as much follow through right now, and Dwayne will get into that on the larger time frame here in a few minutes. But on the year now, we're at $96,284. That's over 226 trading days, averaging $426 per contract per trading day. Okay. Okay. And with that, we'll pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, Studio A overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready.
I am. I just forgot to do this so that I can switch it. There we go. And there we go. Recap of the recap.
Today it took 7 minutes and 1 trade to get to $100 a contract.
Good job. Reminder, Dr. Tom's supposed to be joining us today at the top of the hour, if he can get logged in. He wasn't able to log in yesterday.
And there should be an interesting conversation with Dr. Tom today. For those of you guys who are in here. Are we streaming on YouTube?
We are. Well,
okay, good.
Streaming software is running. Let me check. Go to my YouTube app.
Is Joan out there?
On my phone.
She's usually all over that.
And boom. It crashed at the beginning, and then I restarted it.
Okay, so I see your charts, and I'm going to go create these meetings for these guys.
You see my charts?
Yep, I do. Well, I see your screen. I don't see your chart. But
you know, why am I having difficulty? My phone, the last 2 times I tried to go somewhere. I guess I'll just use plain web browser. YouTube.com/CFRN. Yeah, there's 2 live streams going. I guess no, it looks like there's, yeah, so we're definitely live on, I don't know why there's 2 streams, but it's there. It's live. Okay, recap of the recap.
at 7 minutes, 1 trade.
That's right.
$100. Yeah.
You already told me. Okay. So, Valerie just sent me an updated recap. Let me see what's changed from. I guess there is some change, so let me update that. Real quick.
Okay, Ryan, I just sent you an email. And Guaria, I'm going to send him one.
There we go. Okay, so this is the updated recap that Valerie just sent me. What changed? 49, 4. Oh, we were waiting on 1 and we're no longer waiting on 1. So we got 49 alerts so far this week. 4 never triggered, 45 actionable, 2 stopped out, 4%. not a typical number. The average is 20%, based on not risking more than $300 per contract, per trade, less when possible, based on market structure. Now, let's take a look at the actual alerts. So we start Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's when the market's open. There's usually a flurry of activity. Typically, there's a flurry of activity at the open. Lasts for a half hour to an hour. And then it gets quiet. Then the Asian session kicks in. And then London opens at 3 a.m. Eastern. Last week we had 40 alerts, 8 never triggered, 32 actionable, 3% stopped out. Okay, so now we're in week 122. So the very first alert that came out Sunday night at 6:12 p.m. Eastern, it says 4:12 on the screen. That's because Telegram, which is a messaging app we use, reads the clock on your computer. So I'm on Mountain Standard Time 4 months out of the year. 8 months out of the year, I'm on Pacific time. So we had a gap fill alert on the S&P. The market made $800 per contract available. Gap fill on the Dow. Market made $845 per contract available. Gap fill on the NQ. Market made $215 per contract available. This is a short on silver. S is sell. T is initial target. And then on a short, PS is potential support, which also would be target number 1, target number 2, target number 3. Initial target, second target, third target. Silver made $625 per contract available. Here's a short on gold, 270. Crude oil, short, 200 bucks. No trigger. Here's the Dow. Didn't quite make 100 bucks per contract there. No trigger. S&P short. Hit the $100 mark there. And on the Russell, no follow through, 65 bucks. And then that was all Sunday night. Everything you just saw happened Sunday night, when most of the trading world doesn't even know there's a market to trade on Sunday night. This is what all of our traders had access to. All of these alerts, Sunday night. Then as we roll into Monday morning, again, this is Mountain Standard. Short on the S&P, market made $987.50 per contract available. In Q, $2,500 per contract. You know, this one alert, number 5,756, that right there with one contract, that's half of your passport right there. Passport's $5,000, $49.97 to be exact. Includes everything we offer, everything we do, the live training room, our indicators. We teach you the strategy, the methodology. You get these alerts around the clock to help you out in the beginning as you get going. The weekly trading zones, Thursday night workshops, everything a trader needs, one low price. And also one-on-one mentoring. 9 out of 10 new traders fail simply because they don't have someone to teach them how to do this. If you want to do this, you can struggle as we did, spend lots of time and treasure, or you can have someone teach you, which doesn't mean you're going to be some overnight success or sensation, but it will shave years off of the curve. So next was the Russell. Market made $760 per contract available. There's crude oil, S&P. Now, these alerts go out to all of our members before they trigger. Okay? This isn't some after the fact, woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of thing. This all comes out live in real time, with plenty of time built in for you to get to your computer, sit down, put your thinking cap on, put your trading cap on, all that. There's a gold. At the time the recap was done, there was no exit signal yet, and the market had made $660 per contract available. There's silver, 800 bucks. Now we're rolling into Tuesday. S&P, the Dow, the Russell, the NQ. NQ stopped out. Crude never triggered. Here's gold, $1,200 per contract. That's what the market made available on this trade. From 1823 to the initial target at 1824 to the final trade to target at 1833/34. Gold pays $100 per $1 of movement. Crude oil pays $1,000 for every $1 of movement. Silver pays $5,000 per $1 of price movement. So now I guess we're into Wednesday. Wednesday. Silver, the Dow, the NQ, gold. Yes. I can't even imagine what it would have been like back in 2005, 2006 to have someone send me these alerts live in real time around the clock. We probably wouldn't be having this conversation today, so just got to trust God and His plan. NQ, $300, negative 300, stop out. We don't risk, the guideline is you don't want to risk more than $300 per contract per trade, less when possible, based on our 3-step methodology, which is based on market structure. Very simple. Russell, here's crude, silver, natural gas. Boy, that one just never triggered, and it fell. I showed you guys the other day. Here's the Dows, the NQ. This is all this week. 49 alerts. This is alert number 5,785. Mark Douglas in Trading in the Zone says that in order to evaluate any type of trading methodology, strategy, or indicators, you got to have a minimum sample size of 20 trades. Here's number 5,787. Our sample size grows daily. Silver, gold, and that's that. Everything that you just saw is summed up in this right here, which I already showed you. 49 total alerts, 4 never triggered, 45 actionable, 2 stopped out, 4%. Not a typical number, the average is 20%. We have another alert service that we provide, which is different. It's a static report that comes out shortly after the Globex Open each evening, Sunday through Thursday. And it's guidance for the entire session. Last night I got them out at 7:25 p.m. Eastern. It's usually closer to 6 p.m. Eastern, but each market covered has 2 numbers. S&P, consider being long at or above 36.76. So price hits 36.76. You want to be long and or only looking for long trades above this number, because we're obviously in an uptrend. If price drops and hits 36.36, then you want to be short at 36 and or only looking for shorts below 36, because we're obviously in a downtrend based on the 30-minute chart. If you want to grab a screenshot of these, feel free. We'll take a walk through them. Okay. We'll hit our daily chart first. That's where you should always start your day. go look at the daily chart. You're not going to trade off the daily. I mean, you could. Markets are fractal in nature. Everything true on a daily chart is true on a 1 minute chart, and everything in between. Let's refresh this. There we go. So earlier in the week, I think earlier this week or the end of last week, we drew the Fibonacci price extension. Okay. Now, most people are familiar with Fibonacci retracements. That's where you go from the swing low to the swing high, and there's the 24% retracement, 38% retracement, 50% retracement, 62% retracement. That's the fibs most folks are familiar with. But you can also use them to project into the future based on the same 14th century math, where price will try to get to. You can think of it as a target. You can also think of it as potential resistance. So I'll redraw them for anyone who's not familiar with how to use the tool. Okay. Let me shrink it up a little bit. There we go. So this is the Fibonacci retracement tool if you're using DT Pro. This is the price extension tool. So you click that. The swing low, left click. Now at the time we drew these, this was the swing high at that point in time. So from the swing low to the swing high, and then this gets drawn to the retracement low. Now when we drew them the other day, well, we're just going to base it on what we have right now. Retracement low, about right there. So that changes the number we had a little bit. But again, when you look at Fibonacci retracements or price extensions, you got to keep in mind that it's an area. Okay. Now, fibs do put an exact price point on your chart, but it's so important that you understand it's an area. So are we in that area now? Yeah. From the low to the high to the retracement low, projecting into the future using 14th century math. Thanks, Jake. Okay, so what happens next? Well, let me tell you. Typically with the S&P, whenever you put in a new all-time historic high, you see stuff like this. You usually get a retracement, either a couple days, a couple weeks, but it's usually, but what makes this unusual is that this was a new all-time historic high, closing high, new all-time historic closing high, new all-time historic closing high, and it looks like today we're going to have another new all-time historic closing high. Now, tech stocks, the NASDAQ, has really kind of led this advance to the upside. Let me just show you that. NQ daily. NQ just outperforming. We'll go to the continuous chart. So we're at previous resistance on the NQ. So you can see how powerful this up move on the NQ has been. But now look at what we're faced with on the 30-minute chart. You ever been in a hospital room with somebody that's hooked up to one of those machines that, you know, tracks the heartbeat? Yeah. Well, this is where it goes beep. Yeah. It's just been, this has been going on for days. A little bump there. Now this goes back to the last rally we caught really was on the 30th and the 1st, but for the last 3 days, sideways to nothing. Just when you think you're going to rally, you don't. And just when you think you're going to collapse, you don't. This is a very difficult market for trading. Can you navigate this on a smaller time frame? Yes, you can. But from a bigger picture, from a 30-minute standpoint, it's not a market that is conducive to trading. You've got resistance here, support here. And that just doesn't leave much room for a window of opportunity. So the market will continue to climb until no one is willing to pay a higher price of one tick. It was like on this run up here. The swing high was 36.68. Nobody in the entire trading universe, not retail trader, not institution, not nobody, not nowhere, not know-how, nobody was willing to pay 36.68 and a quarter. I know. Go figure, right? Okay. So let's go to the 30-minute chart of the S&P, where we did have some movement today. Now, for a couple days, 36.85 was the Concierge Trade Alert on the long side. It didn't trigger Wednesday. It didn't trigger Thursday. Last night, Concierge Trade Alert was to be long. If you didn't get a screenshot, there's one more shot. Snap it. Okay, 36.76. $36.76. Important prices, important areas are almost always tested. If a Concierge Trade Alert triggers, there's a higher probability of it triggering multiple times than it just triggering once. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 triggers, one alert. Are all triggers created equal? No. On a long, you want the support of blue and climbing. So this trigger, where you're running into red and falling, now this indicator is called the CFMA1. Blue and climbing says look for higher prices. Red and falling, look for lower prices. Okay? This is very, very simple to learn our methodology. Now, we had to work very hard for a very long time to make it that simple. Price for a long has to be above this green line. The BBC just stands for bull, bear, cross. When price is below, we're bearish, anticipating lower prices. When price is above, we're bullish, anticipating higher prices. Till when? Till price gets back below. In this instance, when price came back below, it found support at the weekly trading zone. The weekly trading zones are published every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern for all of our members, and they've been published since December 14th of 2009. Once published, they're carved in stone for the week. They don't change. So you can see, if we go back to Sunday night, the 29th. Okay. There's the gap higher open Sunday night. And then on the logic alerts, we showed you the gap fill trade. That was beautiful. So when price rallies up to a zone, we expect it to be good resistance, like it was here. As we drop, we expect the zone to be good support until proven otherwise. And so we dropped to this zone, which sent us north to this zone, resistance, back to this zone, back all the way down to this one. That was the next to the lowest weekly zone this week. Support. Now, the most common thing to happen when price hits a zone is consolidation. Second most likely thing is rejection. The third and least likely is called the slice. So price works its way from zone consolidation to zone consolidation, rejected, rejected. So we go from zone up to the zone, back down to the zone, back up to the zone. Here, as price, you notice as price pulls back to the BBC, it seems to hold there. It holds more often than it doesn't. Down to the zone, back up. The BBC, bull bear cross, you should think of that as dynamic support and resistance. When we pull up to it, we're looking for resistance. When we pull down to it, we're looking for support. It's pull back support, pull back support. Okay? This little diagram right here, if I had to sum up our methodology and strategy in a tattoo, it would look like this. Leg, retracement, leg. That's how markets work. Leg, retracement, leg. When price puts in a swing high, the market says, okay, here's your resistance. And then on the retracement, the market says, okay, now here's your support. And so the area between that resistance and this support, that's your window of opportunity. And there's your stop loss. The CFRN Emini method summed up in a tattoo. Now, what's happening here? Price is starting to walk sideways. You'll notice on this, on the big move, the step line is on the left side of blue and climbing. On the left side. Now, as price continues to walk sideways, this step line is going to cross over blue and climbing. Once the step line crosses over, the first red candle that closes below the step line, after it crosses over, see, it hasn't crossed over yet, that's the exit signal. So the concierge alert last night was to be long 36.76. The first trigger took us to 78.50. So that's 2.5 points. If your goal is 2 points a day, you had it on the first trigger. Price gets back below the trigger, important prices, important areas, and it runs up to 36.80. That's 4 points. And then it gets back below the trigger and runs up 2.5 points. It gets back below the trigger and runs up 3 points. It gets back below the trigger, but this one I would stay away from because you're running into resistance. That's what red and falling represents, is resistance. Back below the trigger, and this time the swing high was 93. So 93 minus 76, 17 S&P points at $50 a point, $850 per contract traded. We don't have an exit signal yet. It looks like the market may want to give us one, but it hasn't. This type of consolidation could lead to a rally that takes us up to the highest weekly trading zone. So you can wait for the exit. If you're long this move, you can wait for the exit signal. You can take profit anywhere along the way. Multiple contracts, you can scale out if you want. You can wait for the exit signal or not. Now, the exit signal cannot get you out at the swing high or the swing low, because no one, not man nor machine, knows that this is a swing low or a swing high till after the fact. It's very important that you understand. You don't have to know what's going to happen next to be a consistently profitable trader. And despite the many misleading websites out there, it's impossible to know the future. God said so. He never gave Adam the ability to change the past or to know the future. And those two things are inextricably linked for eternity. Most folks will try to convince you they know what's going to happen next. We tell you up front, we don't know. What we do know, based on our methodology, our strategy, and our indicators, we know what the next high probability move is. Always. Outside of sideways consolidation where there's no movement, we know, just by looking at a chart, what the next high probability move is. Now that's different than knowing the future with certainty. And even though we know what the next high probability move is, we still get it wrong 20% of the time. It's very important that you learn to focus on a series of trades, not any one individual trade, because anything can happen. Buyers, sellers can step in at any time, at any price, for any reason. And there's no man, no machine, no algorithm that can go out and query the minds of every trader that's involved in this marketplace and determine with certainty what will happen next. It's just not possible. It defies science, it defies physics, it defies God. So if you're chasing that holy grail, if you're looking for that way to never get stopped out again, save yourself some time, save yourself some money. There is, I don't care how many indicators or oscillators or filters you have, or crystal balls, it's just not possible. One of the reasons new traders fail is they burn up all their time and money searching for a way to not get stopped out. Profitable professional traders don't waste their time with that because they already know it's not possible. So when they get stopped out, they just look for the next opportunity. High probability, low risk. It's getting stopped out is as much a part of trading as breathing is a part of life. Okay. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but not a good one. 6 triggers, 1 alert. Not unusual. Happens almost daily. As I said earlier, once a concierge trade alert is triggered, there's a higher probability of it triggering multiple times as opposed to it only triggering once. Now, in a strong directional market, you will just see 1 trigger. But this is more common. All right, let me see if Dr. Tom's here yet. Maybe he's tried to message me. Okay, I don't see him yet. Just message me, Dr. Tom, whenever you're ready to log in. Okay, I'm just looking in the audience. Okay, I don't see him. Okay. Next on the list is the Dow. Last night's concierge trade alert for the Dow was to be long 3,020. 3,020. Which was an error on my part, but I'll still show it to you. When I say an error on my part, I hadn't put this week's zones on the chart, so the entry should have been above the zone, not at the zone, but it's what I published. And if you traded it, it worked out just fine. Going forward, if you ever see a Concierge Trade Alert or a Logic Alert that's right on top of a weekly zone, like last night was, you know I've made a mistake, and you should call it to my attention. In the Telegram discussion group, just go, hey, Dwayne, that CTA is on top of a weekly trading zone. Because I'm human, and I make mistakes. But this is what was published. So, the only thing I would have changed is, had I been cognizant, I would have bumped it up like 10 points, maybe 20. So instead of a 30-20 entry, it would be more like 30-30 or 30-40. But this is what I published. So that's an 80-point move, right? I mean, we triggered once, and it went up to 54. So that's 34 points. $5 a point. It's a little over $150 per contract traded. Back below the trigger, another run, 80 points at $5 a point, $400 per contract traded. Back below the trigger. Here, you're running into red and falling. So really the best entry here would be here. Once you overcome that swing high, and that swing high, and that swing high, knowing that you've got a weekly zone overhead, which will most likely be good resistance. Just as these pullbacks, see, support, resistance. Now if price pulls back to the BBC here, we expect that to be good support. Which would give us another leg to the upside. The pullback to the BBC holds more often than it doesn't. Let's see. Fred asked, just got an exit signal on the Dow? Not yet. What's got to happen, Fred, is the step line. See right here how the step line crossed over? That's what we want to see up here. We want to see the step line cross over. Once it crosses over, then we want to see a red candle close below the step line. Just like here, the step line crossed over, and that red candle closed below the step line. We want to see that same thing here. Now, the exit signal only comes into play on an extended move. See, these few starts here, they just barely got out of the gate. So not enough distance traveled for the exit signal to kick in. Over here, yesterday, we had a Concierge Trade Alert to be long 29,960. So price goes up, it hits the weekly trading zone, its resistance as we anticipate. Then the step line crosses over, and then the red candle closes below the step line. So the exit signal on that one would have been the closing price of this candle, 3,012. Which is about a 52-point move at $5 a point. So from 3,020 to 150, it's 130 points at $5 per point. That's if you were long all the way up. But on this trigger here, the one that actually went the distance, I would have been hesitant until price got above red and falling. Now, there's also a window of opportunity right here. You get above red and falling, and then your window of opportunity is 3,070 up to this swing high at 3,090. I mean, you barely enough room to squeak 20 points out before you run into potential resistance. So not really what I would consider a high probability, low risk, because there's only 20 points available there before you hit your first obstacle. Okay, next on the list. Let me message Dr. Tom.
Dr. Tom is
There
here.
he is. There's the man. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
The man with a plan. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good. It's Friday. Always enjoy Fridays. Okay. So, how's your week been?
It's been good. Had a nice Thanksgiving with the family. Took a nap, which I seldom do.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice. How about you?
Just living the life. Just living the
Living
life.
the
I had a
dream,
nice
right?
Thanksgiving, yeah. Yeah, we stayed home. We didn't go anywhere. Didn't do anything. We do a lot of that here lately. Nothing. So.
Yeah, there's really not much place you can go, right?
Well, in Arizona, I mean, you can still go into a restaurant, sit down, have a meal. Only place I ever really go is Walmart and the dollar store, and then back to the compound.
I love the dollar store.
The
wife's been
99
going
cent
there for-
only franchise with the pink, I think it's pink and blue logo, or that's really the best one. But you got to be careful because sometimes, especially in the grocery section, the canned foods, some of those canned goods at the regular grocery store don't cost $1. They're less than $1. But overall, you save a lot. It's amazing what you can get for $1.
Well, my wife and I were driving someplace, and she said, I want to run at a dollar store. Just wait here in the car for me. I won't be long. And I didn't feel like waiting in the car, so I went on in. And she'd been going there for years. I'd never been inside one.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked around and I said, what? This is $1. This is $1?
Yeah.
That's $1? And so I didn't get one of the little carts or one of the little hand carry things. I just started grabbing things. And by the time I got done, I had my arms loaded and things falling and so on. And I bought like 30 some dollars worth of $1 stuff, most of which I didn't need.
Yeah.
But it was $1, you know. It reminded me of the Dagwood and Blondie cartoon. Remember old Dagwood and Blondie in the
I
old
saved
days?
you $100 today.
Yeah, she said, I saved you money. I got this dress for half price.
Right.
It was back in the days of the short dresses. And he said, well, it should be half price. It's only half a dress, you know. Anyway.
Do you want me to send the screen over to you?
No, I don't need the screen. But I do just want to share some information that, there's been a lot on the news about the election and
Did you see that
claiming
video
that
last
Joe
night?
Biden.
The video out of Georgia where they were pulling
No, I
the
didn't.
ballots out from under the table after they sent all the poll watchers home.
Oh, yes.
And they
Just briefly, I saw
Yeah.
that.
That's pretty incriminating.
Yeah, and then they counted all night. And a lot of places, after the official counting is over, and everybody goes home, in 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, they have video of shredder trucks pulling up behind the building and then bringing out bins full of ballots to shred, so you can't recount them. Just been a lot of criminal stuff go on. But
This judge
main
who's going to
thing-
rule in Nevada today, with the evidence he was given yesterday, if he doesn't put his foot down, I mean, he's got to know the whole world's watching.
yeah,
I mean, he's got sworn testimony from credible people, not some anonymous whistleblower, but actual people who raised their right hand and said, I swear to God, I'm telling you the truth, under penalty of perjury, from
Right.
God and the government. If they don't take this seriously, then what message do we send to the next generation?
yeah,
I mean, it's so obvious why, Biden was told to stay out of the way during the campaign. Just stay in the basement, keep your mouth shut. We got this. Well, it's either all going to come out or it won't. And I fear that it won't, that they'll continue to suppress evidence. And the Supreme Court will ultimately hear this case, I'm guessing. I think the election should be redone. We've never
Well-
had anything like this before. But anyway, what's your thoughts?
Well, I believe, number one, that Christians who prayed for this election should continue to believe. What good is prayer without belief, right? But many people have allowed all the negative lies on the mainstream media, because basically 95% of what we're allowed to see and hear and read is controlled by socialists or Democrats. So if people listen to that stuff, it's easy to get discouraged. But if we really believe God, then, I don't care how he does it. I'm going to outline what I think is a logical path under the Constitution, and it would work. But God's not limited to that. He could just, he did miracles. He could just tell Joe Biden, look, you back out, or else, Biden could just resign. I don't know. I'm not going to presume to tell God what to do. But I want to start off with this. This is a tweet the New York Times posted, and it created so much uproar that they were forced to take it down within 1 hour. And they had the actual nerve to say the role of declaring the winner of a presidential election in the United States falls to the news media. The broadcast networks and cable news outlets have vowed to be prudent. Here's how it will work. I mean, I've never seen news networks be prudent, no matter what they vow. But regardless,
Well, I mean, we
it's
used to
not their
have
job.
news networks. Now all we seem to have are opinion networks.
Yeah, propaganda. But it's not their job. They don't have the right. They can't declare someone president. It's just that simple. And so I want to talk about how things happen legally. All right. Most people, if you ask them, just go on the streets and ask 100 people, is Joe Biden president-elect? Most people would say yes, because the media's been screaming from the rooftops for about a month now.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying the election has been called for Biden.
Right.
Well, called by whom? Okay, only by the media. But they think that if they say this enough, it's just
Loud
like all
enough.
the other lies.
Yeah.
Yeah, loud enough and often enough, people will believe it. And eventually, people are just going to say, no matter what kind of truth emerges, my mind is made up, don't confuse me with facts. But-
Yeah, right. Vote early, vote
As I
often.
said before, we need to trust God. Go ahead.
I was going to say, is there a way to check? My wife and I tried last night. Is there a way to check that your ballot was counted in the way that you actually voted?
In some states, there is.
I thought I found a link here for Arizona, and it shows that I voted, but it doesn't say how I voted. But there is an official record that I did vote.
Well, at least that, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if some voting machine somewhere, some computer program switched my vote, I'd like to know. I did read that it's a matter of public record, and I just don't know how to access the record. So it'd be interesting.
Well, we should research that, shouldn't we?
Yeah, it would be interesting for
That'll make a
everyone in
great
America
article.
who voted for Trump to find out if their vote actually counted for Trump and didn't get changed. That would open up a whole nother can of worms.
You know what this reminds me of is the, all the votes that were flipped from Biden to, or from Trump to Biden and so on. And they said, oh, it's just a computer glitch and so on. When I was a stockbroker, probably half the time when my monthly commissions would come out, they'd be short, right? And I had to go through and show them every trade and prove that they hadn't paid me on some of the business I'd done.
Mm-hmm.
And their excuse always was, well, mistakes can be made. I said, you know what? I would believe you if half the time the mistake was in my favor
Right.
and half the time in yours. But it's always in your favor. It always cost me money.
Yeah.
And so I don't believe you. I don't believe it was a mistake. I believe it was deliberate. And it's the same thing. There's two real big things. There's been proven voter fraud by Democrats. There's not even been an allegation of voter fraud on the part of any Republicans.
That's true.
Okay. Number one. Number two, if it is just mistakes and glitches and so on, how come all the mistakes benefit Biden and not one, at least so far, has benefited Trump? I mean, they've got the machines. They can manufacture a few votes and say, oh, these were Biden votes and we made a mistake and they're really Trump's, to prove, that they're being honest. But the fact is, on election night, Trump was ahead by hundreds of thousands of votes in almost every key state. And the next day you wake up and he's behind by 10 or 15,000 votes. Does not compute.
It's like Biden said, we can't stop counting until we know how many we need.
Well, that actually happened here in Palm Beach. I'll get to this later, but I was actually really involved in the Bush-Gore election, in the recount and so on. And we discovered later on that there were two cars just driving all around Palm Beach County. Remember, it was Palm Beach County that decided for Florida, and Florida decided the national election. Right. And Bush won by 535 votes. Initially, he was behind by 10 or 15,000 votes. Mm-hmm. Okay. But when the recount was done, then all of a sudden the truth came out. But during the time that they're initially counting the ballots, there were two cars driving around, just going around and around in Palm Beach County with their trunks full of ballots, which is illegal. They're only supposed to go into county vans and go directly.
Custody and all that, right?
Right. But they claimed that they were lost. How do you get lost in your own county, right? But these were from two heavily Republican precincts. And so they were holding these votes back until they got the phone call saying it's okay to bring them in. We've got enough votes to overcome them. If not, those would have ended up in a canal or burned. So this is not a new thing. Voter fraud's been going on for decades and decades. But let me just first say that, if we're really trusting God, we need to trust God. It sounds simple, but in the face of all this negative news, and even when they're forced to report on some of Trump's victories, they put negative spin on them. It's easy to get discouraged, but I believe with all my heart that God's going to shine his light on the darkness and evil. And when he does, the evildoers are going to scatter like cockroaches in an old house when the light gets turned on. One example of this is that the executives at Dominion, which produced the hacked voting machines that they use in 22 states, they're running for cover. They know the jig is up for them. They were banned in Texas. They're not allowed to use the machines because of improprieties. These machines were used to flip the elections of several different Latin American elections. They illegally flipped the elections for the dictator. And so they were banned in the United States totally. And we were told by the intelligence community that it's impossible for anybody to hack a U.S. election because every state has different voting systems. Well, I believe that, it just makes sense. If every state's using different machines and different methods, some are hand counting, some are electronic counting, so on, then there's no central place to go and hack them all. But it turns out these Dominion machines were used in 22 states, including all of the swing states, okay? Even though they were banned in Texas because of proven backdoors, they could actually watch the votes as they're being counted and see how many more votes they need to manufacture. There were hundreds of thousands of votes that only had Biden checked. Now, are there some people that only vote for the president and nobody else down ticket? Sure. But hundreds of thousands of people that only voted for president, they didn't vote for their senator, they didn't vote for any local elections, nothing. But strangely, all of these were bubbled in with the same felt tip pen, the same exact type. And there were thousands and thousands of them created by people just sitting down when they realized they needed more votes. And it happened in all the corrupt cities. So here's how it's actually supposed to be worked. You have to count all the votes. There's still hundreds of thousands that haven't been counted, even by fake counting. There's just stacks of them. New York State has, I think, close to 500,000 votes that have never been counted. I guess they figure it doesn't matter because they already know they can cheat that election. Then whenever there's a close race, the law requires automatic recounts. But at some point, the Secretary of State of each of these states has to certify the results. That most people know and understand. What most people don't know is that we don't vote for president here. Regardless of what it said on your ballot, where you voted for Biden or Trump, you did not vote for the president. You vote for an elector who's pledged to cast votes at the Electoral College on your behalf. Okay.
But they can go renegade sometimes.
Yes, they can, and I'm hoping they will. I address this a little later on. It's called faithless electors, and the founding fathers provided for that. In the last election, the Democrats tried to get Republican electors to flip and vote for Hillary. But no one's supposed to even talk to those people. But they tried to coerce them, intimidate them, threaten them, and so on. But as I'll mention here in a little bit, I think that some of the Democrats may voluntarily, without being coerced, flip and vote for Trump. But let's go on. The Electoral College is not supposed to announce the results. And by the way, it doesn't meet in Washington, D.C. The electors go to the state capitol and they meet in their own states. They put their votes under seal, and no one's supposed to talk about it or open them. They're transmitted to Congress. And on January 6th, they're opened by Congress, and only Congress can actually certify someone as the president-elect. So until then, neither candidate, not the president nor the pretender, is legally the president-elect. And we're far, far from that determination. So Joe Biden is not the president-elect, no matter how many liberal news outlets say he is. I mean, this can be delayed, the certification of the votes by the states, by lawsuits over the voter fraud, so that their electors are not even prepared to vote on December 14th. There's so many things that can happen, but the bottom line is that only Congress can actually pronounce someone president-elect. So you've seen Biden up in front of this sign that says the office of the president-elect. I can tell you unequivocally, there is no such thing. There is no office of the president-elect. It doesn't exist. The official-looking seal that's on his podium, it says the office of the president-elect. It's fake. Okay, it looks good. It looks like a presidential seal. That's the whole idea. But there is no such office, and there is no such seal. Now, I personally first became aware of Democrat voter fraud in 1960 when Richard Nixon defeated John F. Kennedy. You say, wait, didn't JFK win? No, he didn't win. But he did become president because he received 100% of the dead vote. Again, why is it that the dead only vote for Democrats? They never vote for Republicans. Now, you've heard of the Pew Research Center. It is. It's a very good question. You've heard of the Pew Research Center. They're well respected. They're nonpartisan. They just get at the truth. They published a study in 2012 that proved that more than 1.8 million dead people are registered to vote in the United States, and that 24 million voter registrations, that's over a tenth of all the registered voters in the country, are either invalid or inaccurate. And it's only gotten worse since then. So you could ask the question, well, don't Republicans commit voter fraud too? Well, they certainly could. I mean, I'm certainly not someone that believes that every Republican is squeaky clean and all Democrats are evil. Matter of fact, I think that most Democrats are good, honest people, and they're as conservative as most conservative Democrats. They've just been fooled and brainwashed by their party. And either because the union tells them how to vote or because their family's always voted this way, they vote Democrat. But they have the same values. Most Democrats, the rank and file, don't believe in homosexual marriage. They don't believe in murdering babies in the womb. They don't believe in socialism taking over the United States, but their leaders do. It's the leaders that are evil. So it's possible, yeah, that the Republicans could commit voter fraud, but it just seems like every time that voter fraud is proven, it only benefits Democrats. So why are the most corrupt cities in the nation run by Democrats generation after generation? It's because they gain power and they will do anything, including murder, to keep that power. This is a list of all the 15 most corrupt cities in America. And this is not based on Tom's opinion. This is based on federal corruption convictions. For instance, in Illinois, 4 of the last 9 governors of Illinois have been arrested and charged, and some are still in prison for corruption. Okay, they used to be the most corrupt state in the country, and Chicago the most corrupt city. Now Philadelphia is taking over top spot. But as you listen to these cities, think about the cities where the most serious voter fraud took place in this election. You'll find that every one of those cities is on this list. Okay, it includes the new most corrupt city in the country, Washington, D.C. Used to be Chicago. Chicago is now number 2. Then Philadelphia, which could very well be key to this election. It could be the Palm Beach County of the 2020 election. Baltimore, Miami, Houston, New York, Detroit, New Orleans, Newark, Richmond, Los Angeles, Wichita, Cleveland, and of course, Sin City, Las Vegas. Okay, that's where the voter fraud took place. So regardless of the propaganda that's being put out and the censorship of any of the documentation that proves that fraud took place, I mean, a lot of judges are presented with hundreds of pages of sworn affidavits. People that swear these affidavits out,
Right.
if they're proven to have lied, they could go to prison for it. Yeah. And they don't take it lightly. And a lot of the people, I've seen some of them actually interviewed on TV, are people that didn't even vote in the election. But
Yeah,
they're
a
like
number
the
of
one
them
guy.
I saw, they said, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm independent, or I didn't vote, or, yeah, you're right. And this judge in Nevada, the Trump team had planned to have all these people testify.
Right.
But the judge threw a curveball yesterday and said, no, I'm going to take these 8,000 pages. I'm going to go home and read them tonight. I don't need anybody to testify. I've got it all. There's transcripts of all the testimony. And these people were deposed by the Democratic attorneys.
Yeah.
These people gave, I think a lot of people think, well, Trump's attorneys or the Trump team got these people to agree, to make these sworn statements. No, these people were deposed by the Democratic attorneys, the DNC attorneys, and they stuck to their story. They stuck to their guns under penalty.
There was one guy, the post office should not be using contract workers at all on something as serious as this. It should be federal employees. But there was one guy that testified, a truck driver, that 24 pallets
Yeah,
of
I
ballots
saw that guy from New York to, where did he take him to?
to Bethpage, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, right, that's right.
Now, why would you be transporting votes from New York,
To Pennsylvania.
which has totally different ballots, to Pennsylvania?
Right.
There's no legal reason for that to take place.
The scale of this fraud it's what's really fascinating. I mean, usually if you want to pull something off, the fewer people that know about it, the better. But all these people who are complicit in carrying out this fraud, I mean, this was not, it's not like a hacker, hacked into the computer system and flipped a lot of votes. I think that may have happened as well, but we're talking about a coordinated effort by Democratic poll workers all across the country to defraud this election. I mean, it's mind-blowing. It really is.
And yet we see Democrats saying there's never been a case of voter fraud in the United States. Then why are there hundreds of Democrats, including Democrat poll workers, in federal prison today convicted of voter fraud?
I did not know that.
Yeah, you go to Heritage, and they've got a voter fraud database. So, again, you have these Democrat leaders standing up and just lying and saying there's never been a case, never happens, it's all an invention of Trump and blah, blah, blah. Well, think of all the times they've ridiculed Trump. Remember when he said that his offices were being bugged?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they said, oh, that's ridiculous, he's paranoid. Well, guess what? It turns out that he was. When he said that people in his campaign were being illegally investigated secretly by the FBI. They were using the FISA courts, which are supposed to be used to catch terrorists. Mm-hmm. And they were spying on people in his campaign using false affidavits given by the FBI under the direction of James Comey to the FISA judges. Well, the FISA judges, it's a secret court. There's no one there to defend the accused, which is totally against the Constitution. It says that you have a right to face your accuser. So I'm totally against any kind of secret courts, including grand juries. I think sunshine disinfects just about everything. Here in Florida, we have the Sunshine Law, and when there's deliberations about laws that are going to be put forth, they have to be done in public. That was one of the things that they got Hillary Clinton on when she was the first lady. Clinton put her in charge of trying to make everybody be on universal health care. That means about 60% of Americans that have private insurance that they want to keep would be forced off of it and onto some government subsidized, not subsidized, but government controlled healthcare system where healthcare is rationed. And she did all these meetings in secret in violation of the Sunshine Laws. And she wasn't even an elected official. She should have been heading it up whatsoever. I mean, anyway, I want to stay with the subject here. As I mentioned, I was a Republican vote observer in the recount. Now, they didn't have observers during the original count, and that's why Gore was ahead by over 10,000 votes. But as soon as it was recounted with observers from both parties at every station, lo and behold, Bush won. But if it hadn't been for the recount and the legal observers, Al Gore would have become an illegitimate president. But in contrast, Philadelphia refused to allow Republican observers to observe the counting. That's a clear felony under election laws. And finally, under pressure, they were allowed into the building, but they put these cage things up to where they couldn't get closer than 120 feet to the closest counting station. Well, what can you see from there, right? So at first they said you couldn't use binoculars, and then they passed out binoculars. But again, it's crazy, you know. So finally, they said, okay, you can be 30 feet away. Well, 30 feet away, you can see that there's a person and that they're doing something with a piece of paper, but you can't tell whether they're marking things on the paper or whether they're destroying, 30 feet away, right?
Right.
their excuse was, well, we kept the Democrat observers the same distance away. Well, that's a pretty flimsy argument.
Yeah.
Since the fraud was being committed by Democrats.
Right.
But I think the reason they kept even the Democrat observers away is because some of them are honest people, and even though they'd be going against their own party, if they saw flagrant fraud taking place, they would have reported it. So they kept all the observers away. So Republicans went to court and said they couldn't see anything 30 to 120 feet away. And the judge agreed and ordered the city to allow observers within 6 feet. Well, by that time, hundreds of thousands of votes have been, quote, counted, unquote, with virtually no oversight or accountability. Okay. But it turns out everything's okay. We recently got some very comforting news. The Democrat mayor and the Democrat vote officials in Philadelphia stated that there had been no voter fraud and that everything had been done above board and according to law. Well, that made me feel better, right? How about you?
Yeah, much.
We were comforted, that is, until we remembered that just in the past year, and there's been a lot more prior, but just looking at the last 12 months, a Democrat Philadelphia congressman was convicted of voter fraud, and a Democrat election judge
What did he
was
do?
Convicted of.
In what way? How did he commit this fraud? Does it say?
That wasn't in the article that I read,
Okay.
but it's court records that he was convicted of voter fraud. And listen to this: a Democrat election judge was also committed of voter fraud and of falsely certifying the election results. Look, if you can't trust the judges, who can you trust? So,
Right.
as things stand right now, Philadelphia, the third most corrupt city in the country, could be the equivalent of Palm Beach County in 2000. Philadelphia, if you remember your history, was once our proud nation's capital. Today, it's run by some of the most lawless, crooked politicians in the nation. Jeremiah 17:9 says, "The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?" So based on that, we shouldn't be surprised when wicked people do wicked things like voter fraud. Everybody knows it happens in every election, but catch this. If you search on Google or any of the ones that big tech runs for voter fraud, you won't see anything about the Pew report or anything about the depositions proving voter fraud. All you're going to get is results from the liberal media, and they're all saying that there's no voter fraud. Over and over again, MSNBC, New York Times, Philadelphia Inquirer, they all say there's never been any voter fraud. One of my favorites is they say there's never been a case of in-person voter fraud where a dead person voted. Well, they're careful to say in person because there's been numerous convictions of voter fraud in mail-in voting of dead people. There's one guy that was 84 years old, and throughout his entire life, he voted straight Republican. And then at age 84, until this election, when he turned 118, he voted straight Democrat. A little mystery, right? Someone must have gotten to him and convinced him that the liberal way is the better way. But actually what happened was he died when he was 84. And someone in his family has been voting Democrat in his name, but it wasn't in person.
That's
so that he
somebody
did
that
away
really
with saying
believes
that.
their vote counts.
Yeah, many
willing
times.
to commit a crime to get just one more vote, out of millions in the box. That's really that's somebody that believes in the system, I guess, the very system they're trying to defraud, because they think that one vote is so important. It's a paradox.
They think votes are exactly. There was one observer that saw poll workers putting the same ballot through the machine
multiple times
for Biden multiple times, and then they sent the poll workers away in one city, claiming there'd been a water main break, and so they had to stop counting for the night. And turns out there was no water main break. But as soon as the observers were all gone, they furiously counted through the night and threw out Trump votes. So anyway, the Heritage Foundation does have a whole database of poll workers who cast votes for Democrats in the name of dead people. So there's no question that it happened. In the 2008 election, there were hundreds of cases in Chicago, just that one city alone, where the Acorn people, remember them? They were going around taking names off of tombstones and registering people who've been dead for decades. And it supposedly was a voter registration project. But what they were doing was registering the people, yes. But then they told them, there's mostly homeless people and winos. They said, if you go in there and vote for Obama, we'll know when you come out, there's a bottle of booze waiting for you, or there's cash or whatever. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the idea that there's never been a voter fraud in a nation of 326 million people, many of whom would kill somebody to see their guy elected, not one person ever committed voter fraud, they must think we're really stupid. But the fact is, there has been and there are people in prison for that very thing. So we got two really big problems we have to deal with. I wrote an article about this in Conservative Truth last week. We used to have something called the Fairness Doctrine, where anybody who uses the public airwaves, which belong to us, the people, has to give equal time to political candidates on both sides of the aisle. They don't do it anymore. The FCC went against the Voting Rights Act and just abolished the Fairness Doctrine. Here's another example of bureaucrats who really run the country. They're the fourth branch of government because they stick around from one administration to the next. And the vast majority of federal employees are Democrats. So here's an example of them changing a duly enacted federal law on their own. And then he said, well, the Fairness Doctrine is no longer necessary. So that's why they can get away with that. As far as big tech, they're protected from lawsuits for things that a regular newspaper or a TV station or radio station could be sued over. Why? Because they're a platform, they're not a publisher. And so you've heard of Section 230.
Yeah, they're talking about yanking 230 from Facebook and others, Twitter.
Yeah. Well, they really should do it for all social media.
Protection.
Exactly. Trump is going to try to get that done before the end of the year, get that removed.
By editorializing, they, by default, become publishers. I mean, it's pretty basic. I haven't been to law school yet. So.
Yeah, and by censoring, by allowing dictators from foreign countries to encourage the murder of their political opponents on Twitter. And that's not considered dangerous. That's not censored. But they censor the President of the United States, and they censor the fourth largest newspaper and the oldest newspaper in the country because it reported on the Hunter Biden crimes. And they said, okay, we'll reinstate your account, but you have to pull that post. And they said, no, we're not going to pull it. And eventually they were forced to do it. Okay, thanks, Chris. Where was I? Oh, let's talk about the electors. I graduated from the Electoral College. Did I ever mention that to you?
That's funny.
But the electors, as I said, they don't meet in Washington. They meet in their own states. They're supposed to vote the way their state voted, all except for Nebraska and Maine, which allows splits. So if half the state voted for one candidate, half state for the other, then in those two states, their electors can be split. But in most states, it's winner take all. If one person got one more vote than the other, then all the electors have to vote that way. That disenfranchises, 49% of the people in that state. But that's the way it is. So because of that danger, the founding fathers allowed for the fact that you could have what we call faithless electors. I call them faithful electors because they're putting the interests of the country ahead of the interests of their party. And let's just say, time is short, but there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. And there's proof that although Biden said he didn't know anything about his son's business dealings, his son's own computer, which has been seized by the FBI, proves that he did know. Also, that he actually met with some of these people. So that's treason right there. Okay, that's influence peddling. If you've ever wondered why Biden continually says that Russia's the greatest danger to the United States, I mean, they're like a toothless tiger. Yeah, they have nuclear weapons, but they're so old and rusty and the software doesn't work. They probably couldn't fire a single one. Whereas China is now the second most powerful economic nation in the world. And if they continue as they're doing, buying hundreds of tons of gold every year, they could soon become the world reserve currency. And then they can have a better military than we do. The reason we have the strongest military in the world is because the dollar is the world reserve currency. But if they back their renminbi with gold and become the world reserve currency, then they'll have more money than we do. They'll be not just the leading economic power, but the leading military power. So they're clearly the most dangerous threat to the United States. But Biden has insisted for all his 40-some years in the swamp that they're not, it still does today, that they're not enemies, they're competitors. Well, I would say that too, I guess, if I was crooked and had gotten $1.5 million from the Communist Chinese. But there was a poll done. Did we mention about the poll where Biden voters said that if they'd known some of these things, that they would have voted differently? I think we talked about that earlier, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Okay. That in itself is telling, because the voter enthusiasm for Biden just wasn't there. Most of the people that said before the election they're going to vote for him, when they were asked, are you voting for Biden or against Trump? They were voting against Trump. Whereas Trump voters, almost all of them, said they're voting for Trump. And they didn't even know enough about Biden. Biden didn't say anything about what he stood for. So they weren't voting against Biden. They said we're voting for Trump. So it was with that voter enthusiasm and the tens and tens of thousands of people that came out for Trump rallies. I mean, Biden had some pretty big rallies too, like 20 cars in a parking lot beeping their horns when he said something that was supposed to be a hand clap, but there was no enthusiasm for the guy. So if there'd even been a light rain, most of those people probably wouldn't have come out. Whereas Trump's voters would have crawled through broken glass in a hailstorm to vote for him. Right here in my town, I watched old people that are so bent over, sometimes their spines get stooped, so they almost look like a U, on walkers, people in wheelchairs coming out to vote because they wanted to go in person and make sure that their vote counted. And, in the physical condition they were in, they could have easily gotten absentee ballots, but they wanted to vote for our president. And so basically what they've done is to take the votes of half the American people and just throw them in the trash can. Biden didn't win any state by more than a few percent. And that's easily attributable to voter fraud. So I guess my message is that we need to not get discouraged. Certainly don't stop praying. Some of the top Christian leaders in the country believe that Trump is going to prevail. But they caution, continue intercessory prayer. Don't just get discouraged and say, well, all is lost, woe with me, get used to having a socialist in the White House. But no, if you prayed, believe your prayers and continue to pray. And I believe that we're going to see the president reelected. So that's my opinion. I'm sticking with it.
Amen, brother. Well, I know that a lot of folks in the audience feel the exact same way. So it's going to be interesting to see what this judge does today in Nevada. I think that's going to set the tone. And then there's the debate that happens on Sunday between Warnock and Loeffler. That should be interesting. And I'm sure it'll be televised.
Yeah, by the way, Warnock, actually Warnock and the other Ossoff.
The good
Democrats.
Reverend Warnock.
Reverend, yes, excuse me. Ossoff is a huge Bernie Sanders and OCA and Squad supporter. And he strongly believes in socialism. Warnock was part of a voter fraud organization headed by the woman that ran for governor of Georgia. And she's like Hillary. She said, well, I lost, because I'm black. Hillary said, I lost because I'm a woman. Well, she started an organization, it's supposedly a voter integrity organization, but it's actually an organization that pushes voter fraud. They're encouraging people to illegally move to Georgia before the election and hurriedly register to vote, even if they're staying in a hotel, to try and swing the election, which is totally illegal. And Warnock is part of that organization. He's a close friend and associate of the other so-called Reverend Jeremiah Wright, who was Obama's pastor, and who said, God bless America. No, 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 no. It's God damn America. I mean, this is a preacher from the pulpit. Right. And Obama was sitting there.
I didn't know he felt that way.
Yeah. He was there for 22 years
right.
and was close with this so-called pastor, and yet he didn't have any idea of what he stood for. So this guy Warnock is very close. Stacey Abrams is her name. So Stacey Abrams, who's got this voter fraud organization, and to Jeremiah Wright. We had the advantage in that both Republicans are incumbents, so that's good. They tried to bring up some fake allegations against them, but nothing is stuck because they're good people. And so I'm not a big believer in people in one state interfering in the elections of another state. All right. But in the case of this is not a Georgia election. This is a national election. If we win both of those seats, even if, heaven forbid, Biden was in the White House, we would still control the Congress, the Senate. And if we lose both of those seats, then basically the Republic as we know it is gone, because the first thing Biden is going to do is pack the Supreme Court. For 155 years, there have been 9 justices. It works well, but he'll add however many he has to make sure that everything a Democrat House and a Democrat Senate passes will get rubber stamped by the Supreme Court. He'll also do away with the Electoral College, which means that from this point on, there'll never be another Christian, conservative, or Republican in the White House, and every election will be decided by California and New York. And the other big thing is economic. I mean, for the first time in decades, no president has made us energy independent of the Arabs and the Muslims. Only Trump. I mean, even Republican presidents, they made noises about it, but they didn't do anything. But we are, for the first time in decades, energy independent. But Biden's said first day in office, he's going to reinstate the Iran deal, which guaranteed that Iran would have nuclear weapons. And most of the Arab nations don't want Iran any stronger because they're as much a threat to them. Iran wants to take over all the Middle East. So they don't want it. So Trump has engineered 3 peace agreements between Israel and key Middle East countries. And there'll be more to come if he's still in office. So we can see peace in the Middle East. We can see Israel safe for the first time since 1948. And we could see Iran basically marginalized and muzzled. And but the reason that they've been able to control them to some degree is because of the sanctions. Well, part of Biden reintroducing the Obama's deal is that all sanctions will be lifted. So it was supposed to be a joke. He was on one of the late night so-called comedy shows. You know, Biden was saying, I've thought about having a third term. You know, basically, yeah, I don't want to have to go back to the Oval Office and stuff, but I could sit back at my house in sweats and have a puppet up there and have a little earpiece, and I could just tell him what to say, and I could have a third term without breaking a sweat. And supposedly that was a joke, but if Biden and Harris in particular, because Biden won't last long, he'll be in office for a few months, and then Harris will kick him out and she'll become president. That would be a third Obama administration because he'll be calling the shots. And it's well financed by George Soros and Bill Gates. Bill Gates is emerging as one of the most evil people in the country. Yeah. He is doing some things that, if we had time to talk about him, would make your blood curdle. But he's this great philanthropist. But he controls so much of the electronic media that unless the Section 230 is abolished, just close with this, the big tech companies as a group, the FANG companies, economically, U.S. is the strongest, largest economy. China is second. Japan is third. The big tech companies as a group are larger than Japan if they were a country, and they really are because they have the same political philosophy. They're stronger and bigger than Japan, and they're totally on board with China. So our country's in serious, serious trouble, and we will stop being a republic and devolve into a democracy unless Trump is reelected.
I agree. Pretty scary.
So, got that off my chest. I feel a lot better now.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to it each and every week, and I hope you have a good weekend. And then we'll see you next Thursday.
Yeah, next Thursday I'm going to be getting back to economics. There's some very interesting stuff going on where internationally they're trying to get rid of cash totally so that the governments can control every single move you make, see everything you buy, everything you sell. Cash is freedom, and they're well on their way to totally eliminating cash. But we'll talk about that next week.
I look forward to it. Thanks so much.
Okay, brother. God bless.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. We are past our time, so I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.